Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome to Lioness Rising. Here's your host, Lexi. And today I have a very special woman here with us. Her name is Lynn, and she's an intuitive mentor for female entrepreneurs, but also women who are not in business, to help them reclaim their feminine force, to reclaim their cosmic essence, and to basically connect the bridge between the old paradigm and shifting into the new earth consciousness in life and business. So thank you, Lynn, for being here.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me, and thank you for this introduction. This was, I guess, the best introduction ever. You said it better than I could have ever said it, or even have said it until now.
My pleasure. Thank you. So, if you want, you can dive a little bit deeper. What's your calling in work? And I explain us your business model. That would be actually super juicy.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. When we talked before we started the recording, I already said to Lexi that it's so difficult for me to really explain in an essence, like in an elevator pitch, what I'm doing and who I am, because it's so multidimensional. And that's a wording that I claimed for myself a few days ago: multidimensional mentoring, multidimensional business mentoring, because my purpose, my calling, my legacy is very multidimensional. There's a lot of aspects to it. And one big part, which we also will talk about today, is about reclaiming our feminine essence and force, as you just said, fortune as well. And to really bring back the divine feminine energy in her natural essence into this world, because she was basically erased from our world, from our history. And it's time that she takes her space in this world again, reclaims her space again. And I always hear this sentence like, reclaiming the creatrix, or the creatrix energy, returning back to this earth, to this world, and to this paradigm. And I know, for me, I feel very deeply that one key to really build the bridge into the new paradigm, and a very big piece of foundation for this new earth, is the return of the feminine energy, and also, of course, a sacred union of the feminine and the masculine energies. And clearing all these distortions and illusions, what the feminine is or what the masculine is, and what their union has to look like, and really open the space and pave the path for a new way of relating, even, and bringing those energies back into harmony. Because until now in our history, there's always been either the patriarchy or also the matriarchy. And I think that, none of those extremes is really what we need to build a world in balance. So this is one big part of what I do and what I love and what I feel called to share, to really speak about those energies and guide the souls, mostly women, but also men, to reunite those energies in their life and reclaim their power and their essence in their feminine or masculine expression. And also then building the bridge to weave back the feminine principle and energies into the business world and into leadership. Because the business world is mainly conditioned by the masculine energy. And I see a lot of women, a lot of sensitive souls, creative souls, try to find their place in those systems, and that's not working. That's just not natural for us. And I know that we can thrive so much more as women in business and leadership if we allow ourselves that the feminine is the leading force, and that we build new structures that really serve us and serve the feminine and serve creative, multi-passionate souls, instead of just trying to maintain the same principles, the same structures, and neglect a part of ourselves, a part of our soul, a part of our nature. So that's I would say, that's the calling, that's the purpose. And I work a lot with the rose lineage energy, which we will dive in today.
Yeah. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. And I invite already the listeners really to take the space for this session, because I already feel it in my body that I'm receiving these sensations, and that already a weight is being shifted and my heart is like bursting. And the last days I already felt this calling, like to really share these transmissions to my community as well, that we have to reclaim our goddess essence back, and we need to address certain wounds which are already have been conditioned since centuries of time or thousands of years upon the feminine. And this is what led us to actually disconnect from this creative force, from this goddess essence flowing through you. And when I talk about goddess, like to me, I can imagine to use as well, Lynn, God is nor female nor male. It's the birth of the universe. It doesn't have a gender, because it has both energies, masculine and feminine, equally united. And this is when the separation have begun, like basically into watching the feminine face of God, which I personally call the Shekinah, and the masculine face of God, the Metatron. So in Kabbalah, in the Kabbalah tree, we actually see it developing from the source, and then it's been basically breaking down to the Elohim and to certain God's energies. So everything and everyone is God. But like when we really address the goddess within us, we address the part of us which is the creatrix. And yes, it can be receiving a seed and giving back life. So the feminine principles for me a lot about being receptive, but also taking this energy, transforming it, and giving life again. So it's giving at the same time. So what made us to really disconnect from this receiving energy is all these wounds that have happened, like this oppression towards the feminine, and that it's wrong, false, or you've been accused of something. And in order to survive, you didn't have any other choice than to disconnect yourself. And this is what we are also doing right now. Obviously, we are no longer hunted as witches, at least not in our hemisphere. But we are still trying to fit in a corrupted, sick world. So, and here's like maybe my definition of feminine leadership is to reclaim this power of a creatrix within you, healing the wounds which blocks you from connecting with the source energy and being the creatrix, being the creator of your life, like taking ownership and really see yourself as God, goddess in this lifetime, and that you are totally accountable for everything you create. And with this awakening, you will automatically weave in this foundation and create a new world, create a new business structure that suits you and not the society. Like obviously the collective, it's going to fit into and serve the collective. But I'm not speaking about these corrupted capitalistic societies which basically destroyed our earth. And right now I also hear like the spirit of Mama Gaia comes in the space, and she's like, yeah, speak a little bit more about me and how I'm really like her feminine energy. I'm like about to start crying, because every land, every country has its own spirit. And when I connect, for example, with the spirit of Germany, like now it's getting better, but for like maybe 2-3 years ago, when I connected to the spirit, her feminine energy couldn't breathe. So, and this is what I feel in the earth happening. Like we are on the rise, but she still cannot breathe. And if she cannot breathe, she cannot birth. Like she's far from birthing. So yeah, here's the invitation to really shift out of judgment and open your heart, and like the victim and the perpetrator has to be healed. So that's my 2 cents to it.
So good, so good. So many feelings, so many thoughts on that. So interesting that you mentioned the spirit of Germany. Because immediately I was like, yeah, I know why I'm here and why I'm staying here and why I keep working here and also working with the land and doing the work I do also in retreat spaces in Germany, all the offline work, and I don't know, working with portals and opening portals in nature. And you are so right that it's getting better, but it's still so suppressed. And I mean, if we look at the German history, there's so much oppression, there's so much there's so much victim mentality because because we are so conditioned to feel bad for our history, and it's so ingrained in German consciousness that you are not allowed and that you are not worthy to feel good and to be free and to be fulfilled and to be abundant and to be wealthy. And another thing that's just coming through right now on this and about also my purpose and my work, which I want to offer into this space also, is that a lot of what I'm here to do is to transmute the shadow of corruption. And it just talked about corruption and capitalism. It's written in my gene keys exactly like that, the same wording. You're here to transform the shadow of corruption. I'm like, yep, I see it, I feel it. And also just really bringing a new paradigm of money into the world and really bringing the feminine principle again. It's like, it's always about bringing the feminine principles and the feminine energy back into all of these topics that are mainly masculine dominated. And whenever I speak about these topics, I'm never addressing the masculine energy in a negative way. The masculine energy is nothing negative or dangerous or anything like that. I always say that it's not just the feminine energy that has been suppressed, it's also the masculine energy that has been suppressed in its essence. We don't know, we neither do we know the feminine or the masculine in their true expression, in their healthy expression, in their true essence. And we get to reinvite both of these energies and see what's beyond all of the conditioning, and befriend both of those energies again. And so I think that the end of corruption is the base for that. The key for that is to bring the feminine energy back. And it's also it's the nurturing energy, it's the motherly energy. And I think that is one of the main points about the feminine energy that has been like erased from our world, society, history, is this purely nurturing, motherly energy that, like I always say, it's like humanity is starving emotionally because this energy isn't here to feed us and to nurture us and to really, in a very deep sense, make us feel like we are nurtured, we are loved, we are safe, we are okay. Because women have been conditioned to act like men, to be like men, to try to be the same as men, to be equal as men. And that's where feminism has failed us in a way, being in this extreme, nurturing this narrative that we have to be same as men. Of course, we are equal to men. We are equally worthy, but we are not the same. And that's not the point. We don't need to be the same. What we need is to honor the different unique energies and bring them together in sacred union, in sacred harmony, to have this, this soil on which the new earth can flourish from, which is really nourished and not just dead soil. So I think that that's so important, because I mean, there's even statistics about it. If money is in the hands of women, all the communities profit from it and grow from it, and it's in harmony, because as women, just naturally, from what we care about and this nurturing energy, it's not about making more, earning more all the time. It's not about the profit for oneself. It's about nurturing a whole community. It's about caring for all of humanity, for the whole earth, for the planet, for nature, for animals, for everything. To, of course, I mean, the feminine is birthing the new generations, and she's always thinking about how to nurture the family, the lineage to come. And I know what I talk about. I'm a mom. My daughter is 10, and I know that everything I do, in a deeper sense, revolves around her. To know that I leave her a legacy, and pave her a path that leads her to more freedom and to more healing and to more sovereignty and to more wealth. And that's so important, that maybe that's a very important message right now to all the women listening, to really look beyond their relationship with money and heal the roots, which is always about our relationship dynamics, our mother and father wound, not just the literally mother and father wound, but also the cosmic mother and father wound, and to transcend these stories and remember and reclaim that when we have money in our hands as conscious women, when we allow ourselves to be wealthy and abundant and in overflow, the whole world profits. And that's just not just a tagline or a nice wording to sell you something so that you work on your money mindset or something like that. That's the truth. That's what really happens. There's even statistics about it.
Yeah, that's funny, because before you mentioned feminism, I received a download. You should speak about feminism, and when you mentioned it, how feminism also failed us, and obviously during the time where we were not even allowed to vote or have our own bank accounts, this extreme was necessary. But still, feminism, and feminism is the idea that men and women are equal and they have the same rights. So, and if we are like thinking, and this is something what I saw so many times happening in my life, that especially women hated feminism. They hated women who were feminism, and at the same time they lived in this hypocrisy of commanding the man and being like the chief and telling, like, you can get tattooed or you cannot, telling this basically to your husband. And I was there like, do you actually see what you are living and saying at the same time? You're like the definition of like shadow feminist. You're literally telling me right now what you are hating yourself. And I didn't say in this, but I was just observing, and I was like, wow. So this is basically right now what's happening in the collective. And so many men are feeling attacked when you talk about feminism. And I always said I was born female. I am a woman and I'm a feminist because it would be stupid not be on my own side. And feminism does not end at the border of Germany or US. So even if our countries are nicer to women, we still have a lot of pain, oppression, and we just need to have a look to Iraq and Afghanistan, what's happening right now. And this is where we desperately need feminism. We desperately need women like us who do work, and men, because also men are victims of patriarchy. Like maybe we need to change the word feminism into humanism, because it literally applies to everyone. It really doesn't matter if you're transgender, non-binary, female, man, really doesn't matter, because this humanism, this idea that everyone is equal of us and everyone has the same rights for education, to vote, for earning money, we are here to establish it. So let's shadow a little bit the feminism idea for the listeners. And because you said that statistically, the women, when they have more money, or they have more money, they nurture the communities. There's also a very shocking statistic, by the way, and it came out from Australia, and it was showing, and it really shocked me because I'm a domestic violence survivor, and it showed me that women, like in a relationship, women were earning more. This is when their partners got physically aggressive, because they needed to compensate this lack of self-worth through violence. Obviously, this is a very shadowy aspect of the masculine, but this is where I see, like, okay, maybe we see it as evidence and a statistic, or actually like something happening in our close life, but this is a shadow. And when I work with my clients, a lot of them are coming and literally telling me, I'm scared to earn more than my boyfriend or husband. So this is a dynamic which you really have to address in order to be more abundant and also have a healthier relationship, because this is not something that should stop us. And the last thing, or it's actually like a huge red flag, to become emotionally, mentally, or physically abusive towards your partner or inside the relationship. So this is just like for you a little training to be self-reflective and observe yourself and maybe your surrounding, about what is your relationship to humanism and yeah, to this dynamic. Maybe you have your own unconscious thoughts around money, and actually you would love to nurture your community, but you're scared that your partner will feel less equal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a shocking. It's like, for me, it's like shocking. But even if I went through it myself as a child, it's like it should not be. But I'm still like really like negatively surprised that it still exists in our hemispheres. So I really feel right now that the rose lineage wants to come through, and the point why we were addressing these topics before is that I feel, especially like the Mary Magdalene, her lineage, the rose lineage, the women, they suffered so much oppression. They needed to hide in order to survive. They needed to run away. They needed to create or continue their mystical teachings behind closed bars. They could not be visible. So, and everyone who feels the resonance right now in their body, like, you have a job here to do. You have a job to reclaim what's yours and to burst. Like literally, like I see like a vase cracking open, like, okay, it's time for you to shine. And never, like probably since the last 2000 years, we were never so safe as a woman coming together, healing together, speaking together, and outing ourselves as witches, priestesses, whatever. Now it's your time.
Yes. So good. Yeah, there's so much wisdom, so much healing, so much gold in the Rose Lineage about all the topics we just spoke about. Sacred union, the feminine, the masculine energies working together, equally working together. Sovereignty, big topic. Where does she want us to start?
Let's start with Mary Magdalene.
Okay, so what I want to offer is a part of her story that I received from her. That's not the story that's very much out there, not the typical storyline that you hear from Mary Magdalene. But what she showed me and what I feel to be true about her story, different than how she's portrayed in even the Bible as the whore that was rescued by Yeshua, by Jesus, is that she actually grew up in a very wealthy family, and that she was raised to be a very sovereign woman who had the privilege to decide if she wanted to come into sacred union with a man or not, because her lineage carried a lot of wealth. She would not have needed to get married to survive, as all the other women had to. So she was brought up to be sovereign. She was trained in her gifts, in her psychic abilities, in her healing gifts from age 3 or 4. She was trained in the temple. She trained with Mother Mary. So she knew her then later to be husband's mother before she even met Yeshua. And they were both trained in the temples. They were both initiated into their sovereignty, into their gifts, into their abilities. And then later in their life, they met. And Mary Magdalene was, as I said, as privileged that she could decide if she wanted to join forces with this man. So I do not entertain this story that she was this victim, that she was this whore that had to be rescued. What I know to be true is that she was a very sovereign, wealthy, beautiful, sexually free woman who decided to come into sacred union with a man she knew she had a soul contract with. They both immediately recognized each other, recognized their soul contract, their soul mission, and they started journeying together and working together. And not just Jesus called in his disciples, she did the same. And so the Rose lineage is, of course, when we talk about Mary Magdalene, it's the female lineage, but it's sacred union. They were walking side by side, and they were walking equally. There was no oppression, there was no hierarchy. And what, of course, then had to happen, as you said, is that the women, the more visible that they became, and Jesus became, they had to hide. They had to, as you said, teach behind closed doors. And it was, of course, very dangerous for them to walk their path and to follow their calling and to bring their purpose into life. But what I also want to offer is not that perspective that we can easily feel this victim mentality around it. Oh, the poor women, they had to hide. But I don't think that that's how they felt. They were completely immersed in their creatrix energy, in their fire, in their purpose, in their calling, and there's no victim mentality there. They just did what they had to do, in pure devotion to their path and what they loved and what they knew they were here to offer. And of course, Mary Magdalene was with Jesus, with Yeshua until the very end. And what I know to be true is that she then, and I mean, of course, there's also records about it, or that she, after Yeshua passed, that she flew by boat to the south of France, and she then went on and journeyed through Europe, and she built her spiritual empire, basically. And that alone to me is like crushing this illusion about the struggling healer and the struggling artists. And just look at that woman, look at what she had to go through, and what her devotion carried her through, and what she built after that. And I mean, there's also, of course, this story that their lineage ended, or that they never had children, and that's not true also.
Yeah.
So when she
Actually, Mary Magdalene was a badass entrepreneur, because she was like, okay, in this community, I cannot thrive. Here, my word is not valued. So let's go somewhere. And through my information, like what I received, but she actually continued the lineage until Glastonbury, which is like Avalon. And so basically she created her empire. Like, and so through what I received on information is that actually I think Joshua as well, but Mary Magdalene, they were coming from this community of Essenes. The Essene as was in Egypt, like by the sea, like a little colony, a little community, which was basically like a little utopia. And they have practiced this ancient laws of life, laws of the universe. And so, like, my information is that they were originally from this community. And Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary, like who later became Mother Mary, were priestesses in the Isis cult. And they were, and this is how later the stigma of the whore developed, because they were practicing sex magic. And sex magic in the Egyptian teachings is not about having some voodoo during sex. No, it doesn't have anything to do with black magic or anything. It is about the immersion of the masculine and feminine energies. Of course, you can do it with your partner, but you can also do it, and it doesn't matter which gender your partner has, but you can also do it by yourself. And it is this two Kundalini, masculine and feminine principles, and this is what we see in the pharaohs, that there are two serpents, which represents the Kundalini energy, so the sex energy, rising from the root chakra to the crown and bringing enlightenment. So Shakti and Shiva, feminine creative force and masculine force coming together. This is the sex magic of Isis. So all of them, like all three of them, have been initiated into this magic. And the priestesses, like one fun fact, the priestesses were wearing a certain jewelry to represent that they are initiated in this magic. And obviously a normal person who's not, or maybe like have even a different belief, will misinterpret it as, okay, she's practicing sex magic, so she must be a prostitute. So this is how, like, this myth of Mary Magdalene was the whore kind of started. So yeah, to me, she was, in the end, through her suffering, obviously, they all knew what's going to happen. They have been prepared for Joshua to pass, or to be killed, and also for the anointment process. And we see it in a lot of mystical drawings, how Mary Magdalene appears with her ointment jar. And it's this embalming process, which was also practiced in Egypt, the embalming art of like the mummification for the afterlife. So the light body of Jesus could ascend. So this is what we saw when he was resurrected. It was his light body being resurrected, like not his physical body, but it's like a light twin of us. And you will find it everywhere in the Egyptian teachings. Like it's not a secret, the Merkaba, the light body. And yeah, the journey continued for Mary Magdalene. I don't know right now if she flew with Mother Mary, but I know that she actually brought a child, and the Mary Magdalene lineage continued there until Avalon.
Yeah, Sarah. Her daughter, yes. Yeah, I actually was in Avalon 2 times last year, October and December, and I walked through the abbey and all the sacred lands there, and it's where the Magdalene grids, so the ley line and the energy line is also flowing through. Yeah, it was magical. And you mentioned the Kundalini energy, and it's so cool if you know what to look for and the symbolisms to look for, that in the abbey in Glastonbury you can still find the symbolisms, and I mean in all the modern churches there's no signs of the divine feminine. There's maybe a statue of Mother Mary, but she's not even worshipped, which is so ridiculous, because if she hadn't birthed Jesus, huh? What? Nobody could worship him, but okay.
Oppression. Yeah. Oppression of the feminine at its finest. Let's not honor the mother.
Yep. Makes so much sense. But you can also say that the Kundalini energy is like the dragon energy, the serpent energy, the dragon energy. They're so connected. And there's the drawings in the abbey of Mary Magdalene, and if you know what it is, you see that it's dragons around her, and you also see the sacred union of the serpents of the dragon energy in those paintings. And I have, again, goosebumps all over, because it's so, there are so many codes. There's such a potent energy there. And of course, it's also the Magdalene Street, which is also a little fun fact about me, because I mean, when you're a child, some of us do, or we have flashbacks, but we don't know that much about our purpose. And one street that is not so far from my house here is also called Magdalene Street, but Magdalene Street in German, Magdalenen Straße. And I never made this connection, and it leads to a spot in nature that is also called like Mary Magdalene. And the church I went to my whole life until, I don't know, 20 or something, it's called the Magdalene Church. And I never realized until a few years back, when I was like, oh, wait a minute, it's all here, and it's all orchestrated, and no coincidence that I still live in this place and that I went to that church. That's just a little fun fact, but
it's beautiful.
yeah, it's so beautiful. It's magical. And my second name is Helen, or Helene in German, and it's from my grandmother, and it originates from the name Magdalene. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Magdalene, Helene. So It feels like because there was actually this Magdalenen Orden. They I think it was nuns who basically I don't know so much about it, but I know that it actually existed, but it was somehow also silenced. It did, like, there's not much evidence about it, but I actually know someone who studied that case, so maybe I need to ask her. And yeah, it feels like you were actually at a spot which somehow managed to maintain this frequency.
Mm-hmm.
They needed to hide it a little bit, which is why it's not obvious that here we're speaking about Mary Magdalene, but we are. This is the evidence.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And what I also find to be very interesting is that so many of the practices that we use today and that we feel like are so modern are also originating a lot from the Rose lineage and those practices that you talked about. It's like ecstatic dance. It was one of their sacred practices, and today it's all over the world, and it seems to be so modern. Of course, we have different music, but it's an ancient practice to come into this flow state with your body. And also the breathwork techniques that we use today, of course. It's nothing new. It's so ancient, and we are just remembering. And I think that's so profound that all of this finds its way back to us, even if we don't know where it's coming from. So you can do whatever you want to try to suppress the feminine or those practices, this magic, this wisdom. It's not gonna work. It's always gonna survive and thrive, even.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Because we need it. And just like also some evidence, what I saw in my clients, because they were sometimes asking about like, hey, why do I feel connected to Atlantis, Lemuria, but I also saw to Avalon. So, and just like if we break it down into the linear thinking of the evolution, so and also like no one wants patriarchy, but we also don't have the intention to build a pure matriarchic state. So in my channeling is basically that Lemuria was mostly matriarchic, so it was led by women, and the men were kind of a suppressed one at some point. So this is where some wounds already towards the feminine were coming from. And Lemuria sank, but they started to shift this consciousness. They took their crystals, they took their knowledge, and they built basically the Atlantis colonies. So to me, Atlantis is like the evolution of Lemuria consciousness. And to the golden age of Atlantis, they managed to live in harmony with both energies, like with feminine and masculine embodied and sacred at the same time. But then Atlantis got more corrupted into the masculine. And this is what we are seeing right now in our world, where we are more corrupted to the masculine, like the wounded masculine has corrupted our hearts. And same happened to Atlantis. Then it continued to Egypt. Mary Magdalene came in place. And when it continued to Avalon, and during the golden time of Avalon, I would say the druids and the priestesses were working hand in hand. So it was, and when we watched the temples in Egypt, it was priests and priestesses together. There was like no separation. They were also allowed to intercourse. Like it was not forbidden for them to strictly be a virgin or have the vow of celibacy. So it was all sacred union to them through body, mind, and spirit in all their spirituality. And basically, in Avalon, the evidence of Arthur. This is when it's basically went into the hiding. Like maybe you have some more wisdom drops about that, but for right now, it's like the quick journey through the timelines.
Oh, I have goosebumps all over. My body is shivering. So much energy. I have to feel into for a moment what wants to come through. Something's flowing through you. You can take up the space.
You mean me?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay. It comes really through that the Rose lineage wants to be remembered, when we are like awakening back to this. And then the Rose lineage also wants to have a little like a rebranding, like a new brand, fitting to the modern times, to our times. It is obviously the old practices, but our consciousness has shifted. So you no longer need to be purely priestess. It's more like a lifestyle now, because you can be a mother of 2, 3, 4, 5, have a career in the corporate, but you still walk the path of a priestess. You still remember these teachings. There's no longer a thing of being just this or that, because in ancient times we used to do it, like when we were a nun, priest, monk, in order to fully dedicate to our spiritual practice, we gave up all possessions. We gave up family, we gave up vow of celibacy, and we went into the church, into the monastery, into the temple. For example, in Rome or Greece, these are also more the temples which practice these celibacy vows. And it's no longer like this. Like they don't want, Mary Magdalene, the Rose Lineage, don't want to live by these terms. They want like a fresh new rebranding of what it means to be a priestess, what it means to be but as an entrepreneur, what it means to be a millionaire and still be a priestess. So that's like, anything else? No, that's like literally like crush the illusion that you can be only this or that. It's a lifestyle. It's like how you infuse your healthy milkshake, a smoothie, your daily routine. It's like living in devotion to the spiritual practice in your day-to-day life. Like you can change diapers in a priestess way.
Yeah, so good. I think it's also so important. Even in the beginning when you mentioned the goddess energy, I already saw all these illusions that we have created around it, that it's also not about how you look or how you dress, and all of those illusions that we also get to crash. You don't have to wear the flowy dresses or the royal codes gear to be, or you don't have to wear, I don't know, the crystals if you don't want to. You could be whoever you want to be, and it doesn't have to look a certain way. And that's always a message that comes through, or that I remind my community of. I mean, I have 2 horses, and as a family we have it's my mom's business. We have a lot of horses and I spend most of my time outside with my horses. And when it's like autumn or winter in Germany, I spend the time in dirty trousers and dirty muck boots. And it's like my mantra is making millions in muck boots for my business journey. And you don't have to, I don't know, wear the white blazer or always be in those beautiful dresses. If you want to fulfill your purpose or build your legacy, or as you said, be a millionaire, if that's what you want, it's not about any stigma. It's a completely sovereign choice that you get to make, how you want to walk this path. And it has so many aspects, and you can be devoted to motherhood and walk the priestess path. You can be in your purpose in the Rose Lineage, be devoted to motherhood. You can practice, you can have completely quote unquote normal jobs, but practice sacred union with your partner, and you contribute to this change in the world. But I know that most of us will be called to share their work, because of course that's what we trained for lifetimes, and all the wisdom we have collected. And I think that the most important part is to really reconnect to it, and to have certain attunements that you use to reconnect back to the Rose Lineage, if that's what's calling you, the Venus Rose Lineage, the codes of Lemuria, or whatever is calling you, and what's your highest guidance, and what is your entry point into this connection with the Rose Lineage. And just make this your priority, whatever you do, as you said, no matter if it's purpose related right now, or if it's just quote unquote the daily life, because the priestess way is also the beauty way, and the beauty way is seeing beauty in everything and making the mundane special and the mundane a miraculous experience, because life itself is the miracle and is biggest wealth and the biggest abundance that we can experience. And that's to infuse this consciousness and this intentionality to everything that you do, and not just looking for the peak experiences in life or the great ceremonies, but life is the ceremony. And for me, the priestess way, the beauty way, is making everything a ceremony and knowing that life is the ceremony itself, and that in essence all of this work and all of these teachings are about is to reconnect deeply back to life force itself, to the magic of life, to the spirit in the life force energy, and being embodied in that, and not making it anything outside of yourself.
So grounding. It's like coming home to motherly embrace.
Yep.
It feels landed to me. It feels really like, whew, the listeners have to sink in and enjoy the flow. So thank you so much for this beautiful space, for your codes, for this magic transmission. You can find Lynn in the links below. And thank you so much for being here and listening to our episode.
Thank you so much.